lady was talking, and she said something about the Kia boys. And she was like, because I guess they carjackers or something like that. And she said she tried to get out that way, and then they intentionally tried to target her.
Yeah.
Because she tried to get out the way. Like, it's crazy nowadays. Kids can't even go outside and play.
Yeah,
exactly. I seen another situation on Facebook, and a little girl, no, it was the news. It was the news. A little girl got shot for playing hide and seek. Yeah. And that's a kid idea, you know what I'm saying? That's what the kids do.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, even the lady who was trying to drive past those kids who were trying to carjack her, it's like, do we see these kids as adults or do we still see them as kids? Because at the end of the day, when your life is in danger, when someone's trying to damage your property, it's like, no, like them being a child goes out the window. You just see someone as a threat. And so, I wanted to bring this up as a discussion because there's parents who tend to take up for their child and make excuses for their behavior. And I'm a teacher, so as a teacher, I see it firsthand. A parent will say, okay, well, what do you expect me to do? Well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle my child's behavior. And it's like, well, you're the first person who's legally responsible for your child. So if you don't know what to do, then that's a problem. So, and like you said as well, with and thank you, Dee, for joining. Thank you for joining the panel. Like you said, kids can't even play outside because there's other kids trying to target them. And then even with, the safety of within that neighborhood, it is jeopardized because there's kids who are getting access to guns, and it's just a shame. And so, Dee, as I know you were in the live as well, so feel free to share your thoughts. We're just talking about what can we do about these out of control kids, and who do we blame for their behavior?
Honestly, I don't really think we could really point the blame in any one specific place in general. To be honest with you, like, we could say that it's like a lack of supervision from the parents, but also it's like, okay, so then where are the parents at? They're working. You know what I'm saying? So then it's like cost of living, you got to pay your bills and everything like that. Like, parents really don't have time in this day and age to really parent the way that they used to be able to back in the day. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, it's like kids have a lack of supervision. It's also social media as well. So it's like most kids are spending most of their time on social media because, like you guys said, kids can't go outside and play no more. You feel what I'm saying? So now everybody's on social media and they see everything that's going on. You know what I'm saying? They see things that, celebrities might be doing, or, kids around the world are doing, or whatever, and they feel like they can do whatever they want now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And there's nobody there to tell them not to because their parents at work. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, like, I really just think it's really just a group effort, like, you know what I'm saying, for us to, how they say it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
Like, back in the day, you couldn't do nothing outside without your parents knowing. Like, even if your parents wasn't there, somebody on the block was telling your parents what you was doing, Now, nobody's watching your kids. Nobody cares anymore. You know what I'm saying? We don't care about each other no more. So nobody's saying, hey, I'm going to tell your mom, you out here bugging. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's telling anybody anything.
Exactly.
Nobody.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I definitely agree that there's different influences that really contribute to a child's behavior. And then also, like you mentioned, it takes a village. So it doesn't just take one parent. The parent may be working, the parent may be busy or occupied with other children that they can't supervise their child 24/7, which is understandable. And like you mentioned, it takes a village. Now, what do you say, or what do you suggest to parents who necessarily don't want other people to parent their child? Because there's been cases where a mother or a father is like, oh, you can't tell my child what to do. My child is, my own. Don't worry about it. And what do you say about those parents who necessarily don't want anyone to give advice to them or give or correct their child if they see that behavior happening?
Well, I feel like, me personally as a parent, because I am a parent, you know what I'm saying? So me personally, if you see my kid outside doing something that you know damn well they shouldn't be doing, as an adult, I feel like it's your responsibility to say something. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't want nobody to say nothing to your child if they're doing something that everybody knows they shouldn't be doing, then I'm so sorry, but that's a little bit ignorant on your behalf, because you're just encouraging your child to be a nuisance. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? You're telling your child, can't nobody tell them anything. You're telling them, your child, you can't learn anything from nobody. You exactly. know, like, and you learn it on a day-to-day basis. You know what I'm saying? Somebody has to tell you. You know, yeah. If your parent not there to tell you, somebody got to say something.
Yeah, exactly. No, I definitely agree, because I'm definitely the one to speak up and say something to a child who is acting unruly in public. Like I said, I'm a teacher, and so it's kind of like in my human nature just to correct a child.
To be like, hey, you know, chill out.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I do pose the question of, when a child is young enough to be corrected and that behavior is overlooked and no one corrects that behavior, then it tends to escalate. And so like the coldest he mentioned, as far as the children who were trying to carjack the woman. Now, of course, I honestly believe that wasn't their first offense. Like there's a habit that was formed before they got to the point of trying to carjack someone. And so with parents, I tend to encourage the parents of my students, as well as parents that I know, that when you see the child portraying a certain behavior, like, for example, just hitting another child, you may think, oh, you know, they're just 2 years old, they're hitting another child, or they're 3 years old, they're just hitting another child, or 4, you know, and you have to correct the child at that moment, because if you don't correct them, they're going to think that's acceptable, like you mentioned, and then it will tend to escalate. Like, they'll start from hitting, next thing you know, they're grabbing, next thing you know, they're biting, next thing you know, they're throwing.
Right.
So it just continues to escalate.
And now they're fighting and getting suspended from school.
Exactly. And so, yeah, I definitely agree. And even with, you know, like you mentioned with the village, and that's where, you know, it becomes an issue where parents sometimes don't want the village to correct their child, even when they're 2 or 3 or 4, or they'll make excuses like, oh, well, you know, they're just 4 years old, or they're just a toddler, or they're just 8 years old, they're just a child, you know, like, that's a normal
behavior.
Children
are smarter than we think. Okay, children are smarter than we think, and a lot of the times, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, kids know when they're doing something wrong.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, kids know, like, especially, like, because, like, you could catch a kid, like, sometimes when a kid does something wrong, they'll look and see if anybody says anything. You know what I'm saying? For the first couple of times they do it, until they realize, oh, no one's ever gonna say anything.
Yep.
F it. Like, literally, like, you know what I'm saying? At that point, that's basically kind of what they think. Like, kids know. Yep. When they know right from wrong. Like, I feel like it's human nature to know right from wrong.
Yep.
I feel like it's human nature. Kids read body language first before they read anything else, you know? Yes. So, like, a kid can tell by your reaction if they did something wrong naturally. They just know. So, there's no point in not correcting them.
Yes.
Because if that's the case, you're saying it's okay to do bad things, and it's not okay to do bad things.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, a child is smart enough to understand what's right and wrong. And when you allow that child to get away with what's wrong, then they may think that's acceptable, or they may see you as permissive. You know, I was kind of researching different types of parenting. You know, you have permissive, you have authoritative, you have authoritarian. And so permissive is more of like, you're just dismissive of the behavior. Like, you're not correcting that child when it happens. Or you allow children to disrespect you, you know, and you're not saying something right away. And then you have authoritative, where it's kind of the complete opposite, where you're telling that child, like, no, don't do that because I told you so. You know, and of course that language is appropriate at different times, where it's like, no, don't touch this because I told you so. But still, you know, that can breed children of being defiant, as well as kind of isolating themselves as well. And so with parenting, you know, definitely, you know, we want to take different approaches when addressing a child's behavior. And then also, like you said, leading them, you know, in the right direction, and encouraging them too. When they're doing something right, you can, you know, reward them for that when they're doing something wrong. Now, something related to this topic is when parents reward their child for negative behavior. So, for example, a child could come home with all F's and a bad behavior report, but the child still receives new shoes, a new video game, you know. And I encourage my parents, the students' parents, that try to have your student work for something, don't just give it to them, allow them to see it as a reward, not something that is that they can receive just by doing anything, and that's something that, I continue to encourage my parents to, like, make sure that you're putting something there in place that's a reward for when they do something well, but then also having the consequences as well. So now I'm going to bring up this question. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the videos of the kids attacking the teacher at school. And it's mostly over phones and, cell phones. And so,
okay, I have seen those. Like, the teacher will try to take the phone. My teacher was taking my phone all the time back in the day. I never tried to fight her for it, though.
Yes. Yeah. So, what do you say? So, what are your thoughts about children having their phones at school, and then parents allowing the child to have phones at school, and then even parents saying, "Well, I paid the phone bill, so no teacher has the right to take away that phone"?
You know what it really is, and I know a lot of people don't really be wanting to hear that, but it's really just it's just the way the world has evolved now and changed the way of thinking for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody is always on edge, and everybody finds everybody to be a threat at this point. It doesn't matter, who you are or anything. So everybody's all like, no, mine is mine, and you're gonna get the phone back. Okay. We all know you're going to get the phone back. We know that it's yours. We know legally we cannot keep the phone from you forever.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But just the thought of them not having something that's they feel like they're entitled to for that given point in time is just like, no, you're challenging me. You know what I'm saying? Everybody feels like they gangsta is being tested. Nobody understands discipline anymore. You know what I'm saying? There's really just no discipline. That's really what it is. Because if you think about it, discipline gets more and more slack as with each generation. Like, you remember back in the day when people used to be able to hit you with the ruler. You know what I'm saying? When you were in school and you weren't listening, and now that was too much. So now you can't hit the kids, but you can go ahead and put them in timeout. But now we can't put them in timeout because you're isolating them. And you're isolating them, and you're signaling them out, and now you're bullying them. Every year it gets more and more slack. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like basketball. Every year with basketball, it gets more and more slack. Everything is a foul now. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is fall real hard. And you know what I'm saying? It's a foul. Back in the day, they was roughing each other up. And nobody was blowing that whistle. It's like the same thing. So literally, honestly, unfortunately, I really feel like there really is no fixing it, because everybody, not no fixing it, but everybody just has everybody's getting more and more defensive now. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's more and more you can't tell me anything now. Everybody is so trying to be their own person now. They're taking it kind of sort of in the wrong way. You want to be your own person so bad, you're not taking in any type of knowledge or you know what I'm saying? What is it? Constructive criticism from anybody else. Constructive criticism to people is now an insult. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has an entitlement to be who they want to be, but you can't tell me anything about it to better myself or anything like that. So if you're trying to take my phone, you're testing my gangster, you're insulting me, you're depriving me of my stuff.
Exactly.
So now I want to fight.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's stupid. But in a respect thing, respectfully, you would never fight your elder or a teacher, and you wouldn't even think about it back then. You wouldn't,
exactly.
Think twice about it. Now it's just I have that right to do so because you disrespected me. So now that I'm disrespected, we are now equal. But there was no disrespect.
Exactly.
But that's just the way that it is. I really think it's just each generation
is different.
I think that's just the way of trying to take control of, I guess, what they feel like they should be in control of.
Yes, exactly. Like you mentioned, the entitlement. Now, with this behavior of entitlement or this mindset, who do you think is now, like you mentioned, you don't want to say there's no pinpoint blame person, but who do you think is responsible for that mindset?
I think it's just I really just think, if you ask me, if you all could really blame it up to the government just trying super hard to make everything right that they had messed up in the past. You know what I'm saying? Whether it is making rights for people, the LGBT community, black people, for black people, Asian people. Everybody is trying to make everybody happy now. You know what I'm saying? They're so busy trying to make everybody happy now. There are no rules because if there are rules, everybody can't be happy. Because in some way, shape, or form, this rule excludes Black people. This rule will exclude people LGBT. This rule will exclude handicapped people. You know what I'm saying? So it's really their fault, for real, for not having balls to actually make like solid rules.
Yeah.
Because if you really want to be honest, a lot of other countries, they don't have the same problems that we have because they have solid rules.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't gonna hit your teacher because you know you hit your teacher. That ass is you go. Something's gonna happen.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because that's crazy.
And that's interesting. You mentioned the government. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. You mentioned the government because even, you know, when you think about the school system, there's not really a consequence or a severe consequence when a child is either fights the teacher or tries to snatch their phone back. There's nothing that
these are public schools.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
hey, how you doing? Yeah, exactly. And so, yes, hey, DJ, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. What about you?
Doing well. So, what are your thoughts? I know you're in the comments.
Yeah, you know, like what my sister was saying, she's right, man. Because like we grew up in Africa, right? Yeah, we came to the States, so our parents raised us the same way. Sometimes we think like it's hard way to raise us, but when we grow up, we see the way the world is now. We really appreciate where they raise us. They raise us to respect each other.
Yeah.
There's certain way your mom will talk to you. Even to say a word to your mom, you don't have the right because that's your mom. You know what I mean? I don't care what you're doing. Your mom will say, "Go give me water." Your mom will sit close to the TV remote, right? Your mom will call you, "Hey, can you give me that TV remote?" What are you gonna say? You're gonna say, "Mom, you sit by the remote. Why you don't get it for yourself?" No, you can't do that. That's your mom.
Exactly.
You have to do it, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, if your mom sits close to the remote, as long as you're not doing nothing, she call you, say, "Give me that remote." You have to do it. That's your mom. She'll bring it to the world, just like your dad too. But the one now we live right, man. From since I came to this country, I see kids who tell their parents, "Shut up." Who born you, man, to say that to African parents? Shut up. Don't say that to me. They will beat the hell out of you.
Yep.
They think schools only are there when during state funding time.
In Africa, right? Like when I was little, if I do something wrong, my mom friend is there. My mom friend whip my butt.
That's it takes a village. So that's exactly
as long as I'm doing something bad, my mom friend will whip my butt. And when my mom come back, my mom will add another whip butt on me because it would say that I was doing bad. But in America, you can't do that. Somebody will tell you, "Don't put hands on my kids."
Exactly.
That's a lot of stuff now. Another parent see some kids doing something wrong, they will not say nothing because of the law in America.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, and that's exactly, you know, what we're discussing as far as like the government kind of plays a role into that as well. That necessarily you can't hold children accountable who are not your own, especially like as a teacher, if a child is doing something that is disrupting the class, the most a child would get, as the highest punishment that child will get is being removed from the class and then coming back to the class. And so, and I see that, you know, there's several comments. Thank you, Buffy. That Ty said it all starts at home. And like you mentioned, DJ, as well, that in Africa, there's certain households, well, majority of the households, the parents have a strict parenting style where a child doesn't even have the thought of talking back. Well, they may have the thought, but they definitely won't do it because they're aware of the consequences. And so I definitely believe that a lot of things that play part into a child's behavior are the child not realizing that there's consequences and them not saying it as well. They're not saying the consequences that that needs to be instilled in them and in that classroom or in that home environment. And so they just feel like they could do whatever and there's no consequences that they'll get. And so also Ty mentioned if the parents would take one day out of the week to spend time up at the school, we would see a change. So I definitely agree with that. So I definitely believe that there's different factors, you know, like we mentioned, that there's the government playing a part of it. You know, there's certain ways that we can hold a child accountable. Also the household, you know, parents need to hold their child accountable as well. And so there's different parts.
My mother used to come to the school when I was bad. I remember that's what they used to do. When you used to get in trouble, they would call your parents, and your parents would come and sit in the class and watch you throughout that. My mother did that to me a couple of times, and I bet you I stopped acting up.
Yep, exactly.
If you were from, right, you do something bad in school, your parents would go to the school and allow the teacher to whip your butt in front of the class. They'll whip your butt. Guess what? Next time, you're not going to do it because you don't want your teacher to whip you in front of all your friends.
Exactly.
Next time you're gonna act good. But yeah, you can't do that. Exactly. But I always tell people this: that allow your kids to spoil. That allow the government to raise your kids. Raise your kids for yourself. Because at the end, when they become who they are, the bad, guess what? The police is there to arrest your kid, put them in the jail, and spend your money. So why are you gonna allow that to happen to your kid?
Exactly. I definitely agree.
Don't allow the government to raise your kid for you. You raise your kid. You give back to your kids. You know how you suffer to give back to your kids. So raise your kid for yourself the way you want your kids to go. That's all I'm going to say. Any parent, don't allow the government to raise your kid for you. Because why? You allow the government to raise your kid, that's when all these young people not dying, this, that, because of this. Allow the kids to raise by the government. No, me, I'm not going to allow my kids to raise by my government. No, I'm going to raise my kids by myself. Tell my kids what to do. In Africa, your dad told you to do something you don't know do, you don't know obey, it would drive you out of the house. Yeah. When you go learn, when you go learn hard, you come back, guess what? You're going to be in control. You're going to listen to your dad.
Exactly. Exactly. And I definitely agree with you, DJ, not expecting the government or other people to raise your child, is definitely up to the parents. And like we mentioned as well, like Dee mentioned, as far as there's other influences. But of course, if you set a strong foundation in your household, then your child will have some sense of consciousness and also have self-guilt, have a self-conviction if they're about to do something or if they see their friends about to do something that's wrong. And like Dee mentioned too, I know my mother instilled in me having a sense of a morale system where, okay, if you're doing something wrong, God's going to look, God is watching you. And so that spiritual aspect of it is really what drove me into doing the right thing when I'm in school and away from my parents. Now, I'm not going to say, every household needs that spiritual aspect. I'll just say that every household needs a strong foundation in order for their child to ignore the negative influences or not give into it. And I know it gets harder once a child gets older, like in high school. Of course, everyone may be, I don't know, about to ditch school or something, or, cheat on a test, or even something worse, like jump another kid. If you raise your child with strong foundation and strong morale system, then that child will think twice before doing that. It's just the kids that are repetitive with their negative behavior, like the ones who are carjacking, the ones who are trying to access guns, the ones who are ditching school, the ones who are cursing out the parents, the ones who are fighting the teachers. Those are the children that are now seen as out of control. And parents are like, well, I can't really do anything. But I always say, parents...
But you can, though. You could just put your kids in something. Like
exactly.
That's what my mother did for me. My mother put me in every club possible. I was in school from 6 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night because I was doing clubs and practices and school and everything like that. And I got good grades and everything. Like, I didn't have time to do those kinds of things. You know what I'm saying? Make your kid busy. You put too much time on your kids' hands because they tell you, I don't want to do it. You think I wanted to do everything my mom put me in? No. But I had to because that's what my mom told me to do. Like,
exactly.
The parents are scared of their kids, really.
Exactly. And Dee, I love that you brought that up because I don't mind is a devil's playground. That's what my mom always says. So if your child is not actively involved in something, they're like, just as a child, they're going to find other things to entertain themselves. And so you have to make sure that your child is being productive. But like you said, after school programs, there's sports, there's different clubs, or even just having your child with a family member. I know Ty mentioned that he mentioned that the new grandmas are 30 years old nowadays or these days. And so I know that you
nothing else to do.
Yes. And so I know that a lot of households, they depended on the grandmother to watch the child when, the mother's at work or when the father's at work. And now that some of these grandmothers, unfortunately, have either passed or some of them are just like, I'm not going to do it, then now, some parents are left in a rough place where they're like, okay, well, I'm just going to leave my child at home. They're old enough to watch their sibling, they're old enough to watch themselves, but they're not really monitoring them. Now, of course, like Dee, like you mentioned, a parent doesn't know what their child is doing 24/7. And so I would suggest maybe having a family member, a coach, a mentor, someone check in with their child at least once a week, just to kind of check in. Because I know it's a heavy load on parents to try to, navigate everything and try to manage the household and, pay the bills and go to work on time. But, we all need support. And like Dee mentioned, that village, and DJ mentioned as well, having that village there to support you. But you have to ask for that village. You can't just say, well, I don't need anyone else to raise my child. Like, no, because then now you're left on your own and you can't really blame anyone who is now trying to correct your child when you're not doing it, And so, so definitely, there's different ways that we can solve this problem, as far as these out of control children, because once summer gets here, summer vacation is here, the behavior is going to increase because there's no school to occupy most of these children. And we think the behaviors are crazy now. They're just going to escalate over the summer. And that's why
they was acting after they got out the house after COVID.
Mm-hmm. Say it again, Dee.
I said, you remember how they was acting after they finally got out the house after COVID?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, and it's as a child, like, you're gonna find things to entertain yourself. Like, that's any child, black, white, brown, But you just have to make sure that you give your child something that is productively entertaining them, And then also having them supervised in some cases, like I said, not 24/7, but maybe making sure that a family member is checking in with them, or a mentor, or a church member, or an uncle, or an aunt, someone, so to make sure that that child knows that you have eyes on you. So just be aware of what you do, And then also instilling consequences. No child's perfect. Of course, children's going to get into things. And so make sure that there's consequences in place when that child is not doing the right thing, or that child chooses to follow the crowd and jeopardize their own safety. And so I definitely appreciate you, Dee and DJ, for joining. So I know, this is a long topic. So I kind of just wrote down some things that, we can do as a community to help address this issue. Because like I said, yes, parents are not all to blame. I believe that they have majority of the weight. Thank you, Dee. I believe that parents have majority of the weight, and especially when the child is really young, but it does take a village as the child gets older as well. And we shouldn't wait until the child gets 17 to say, oh, we need to do something about his behavior. Because then now it's going to be 10 times worse trying to handle that situation. And so something that I kind of suggest to my students' parents is making sure that you check your child's phone here and there. It doesn't have to be every day, kind of a little pop-in, because
that's how I want to talk.
Yeah, say it again, DJ.
I just want to bring that up.
Yes. Oh, do you have
Yeah, when you have your kids, right, or your daughter, make sure you check what they do. The iPad, make sure you know what they're watching. Because this internet stuff is crazy. They be watching stuff, you don't know what they're watching.
Exactly.
So you have to make sure what they do. For me, I always download stuff for any kids. Okay, this is you're supposed to watch. I don't want you to watch this. You watch this, you're gonna go time out. So I give you my rules. And as long as you're under my house, you have to go about my rules. I'm gonna give